What's good, Guardians? It's Camille's dad, and I've got a fun build video for you today. It involves shotguns and an exotic that's kind of been slept on since it was brought back from D1, and it's low-key kind of good. This exotic can be used both in PvP and PVE, and it ups the survivability of the entire team by a lot. But enough of this intro, let's get it. Alright, so first, if you enjoy the vid, leave a like. If you enjoy the content, sub. And don't forget to tap the bell so you're notified of any activity on the channel. Camille's mom is watching the sub counter. I'm just saying. Anyways, let's talk about this build. It actually feels like I'm going against my better judgment as far as timing for this build, considering my last Titan vid was also a Sentinel build. But I really wanted to talk about this exotic, and it only works with this subclass. So since I mentioned the exotic, let's talk about it first. The exotic in question today is No Backup Plans. When you have full melee energy, Shotgun Final Blows activate Defensive Strike and consume your melee energy. Shotgun Final Blows also give you melee energy. And the mods we're using? Melee Kickstart. When your melee energy is fully expended, you gain melee energy. You get about 10% of your melee back from one, and about 20 to 25% if you use two of them. Then we have Elemental Armaments. Combatant weapon final blows with a damage type that matches your subclass element have an escalating chance to spawn an elemental well. For those of you that don't know about elemental wells, picking up an elemental well grants energy to your ability with the lowest current energy. Picking up an elemental well with a matching element of your subclass grants energy to all your abilities. You can get this exotic if you don't have it already from any legend or master lost sector on the day it features ARM exotics. You have to do it solo, else the exotic won't drop. So you can use Google to search for sites that have what lost sectors are in rotation and what exotics they drop for that day. Alright, so let's talk about the subclass, and then we'll come back to the rest of the armor and then the weapons. So this, as we mentioned earlier, is a Sentinel build, but this time around we're using Top Tree. So we start out with Defensive Strike. Defeat an enemy with this melee ability to create an overshield around you and nearby allies. Final Blows grant melee energy when this overshield is active. So it only makes sense that given No Backup Plans gives melee energy for shotgun kills, it's based off this perk in Defensive Strike. Next we have Rallying Force. Melee kills restore health for you and nearby allies. This health restore also works with No Backup Plan when Defensive Strike is procced. So when you get a shotgun kill that procs Defensive Strike, you'll get health with the overshield, but not for every shotty kill. Come on, man. That'd be OP as hell. Next up, Ward of Dawn. When super energy is full, create an indestructible dome to protect you and your allies. Passing through Ward of Dawn grants you and your allies a temporary increase in weapon damage, aka Weapons of Light. Also of note, it's not indestructible, and in fact your resilience is tied to the overall health of the bubble. Lastly, Turn the Tide. Your overshield with Defensive Strike lasts longer and increases melee damage and reload speed. That reload speed boost is greatly appreciated since this is a shotty build that relies on melee energy. Okay, so now we'll talk about the rest of the armor and mods. First things first, in this build I'm going for as much resilience as possible for a couple reasons. First, for the bubble, but secondly, I'm using mods that increase super and melee regen by using the barricade. That being said, my helmet here is Void. I'm rocking Double Dynamo. Reduces super cooldown when using your class ability near targets. We also have a Charge of Light mod, Protective Light. While charged with light, you gain significant damage resistance against combatants when your shields are destroyed. This effect consumes all stacks of Charged with Light. The more stacks consume, the longer the damage resistance lasts. We already spoke on the gauntlet, so on to the chest. Nothing too crazy here, just dual shotgun reserves for obvious reasons, and of course, bountiful wells. Elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. So the more copies of this mod will add one additional well for each copy of the mod. Hope that made sense. Next up, the legs. I'm going with shotgun holster here. Gradually reload your stowed shotguns over time. Multiple copies of this perk stack to reduce the time taken to fully reload, so the more the merrier. Next up, we have Invigoration. Reduces melee cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power. And last, we have Elemental Light. Defeating a combatant with your super spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. Heavy-handed can also work here. Alright, so on to our mark. First, we have Dual Outreach. Reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. So something else that works with the barricade. So spam that barricade as often as possible. And finally, Elemental Charge. Become charged with light by picking up an elemental well. If the elemental well element type matches your subclass element, you gain 2 stacks of charge with light. So never fear, you will always have at least 1 charge, but mostly you'll have 2. Okay, so that's it for the armor and mods. Let's go over our shotties. As you already know, this is a shotty build. In fact, it's 3 shotties. So first in the kinetic slot, I'm using Fractatist. Mine has Slide Shot and Harmony. This is the one shotty that actually doesn't matter. You can have any role here. Honestly, this is only here because of the build flexibility the third shotty allows. In the special slot, you'll need a Void shotty. Any Void shotty will work here, so I'm using a slug shotty called Bone Chiller. My roles are Triple Tap and Dragonfly. Yeah, you heard me right. Triple Tap and Dragonfly on a shotgun. This shotgun can be farmed on Europa doing just about anything. So just go there and do everything, and eventually, if you're lucky, you can get a roll like mine. I also put up backup mag on it for the extra ammo, since this is basically going to be your primary. And lastly, we have the Tractor Cannon. Its intrinsic trait, Repulsor Force. This weapon emits a powerful impulse that pushes enemies away. It literally punts them into another time zone. It suppresses their abilities and makes them more vulnerable to all incoming damage, but mainly to incoming void damage. So how I use my shotties? I go in with Tractor Cannon and shoot whatever yellow bar or boss. I then swap to Bone Chiller and take them out. If it seems like the boss isn't gonna die, I'll then swap back to Tractor, take a shot, then finish them off with Fractatist. Since I have shotgun holster equipped, my stowed shotguns will get reloaded automatically, albeit slowly, but it does happen, eventually. Okay, so the order of operations are as follows. Go in and start killing stuff with either of your Void shotties. The first kill will instantly give you Defensive Strike and full health. Kills with the Void shotties will produce Void Elemental Wells, and if Masterwork, Orbs of Power. The wells will give you your charges of light and will give you energy to all of your abilities. So you get your first kill and immediately pop a barricade. That barricade will give you melee energy and, if you're near enemies, super energy. Then you just run around killing as much as you can with your Void shotguns to keep proccing Defensive Strike and pop barricade when it's available. I get mines about every 20 seconds or so. Both shotgun kills and melees will give melee energy when your overshield is active. So as long as you're getting kills in those ways, you should be able to keep Defensive Strike up. And your team will love you because as long as they're around you, they keep getting overshields and heals. So like I said at the beginning of the video, this is a fun build. Because you have to be up in the mob's business out of cover, and even with overshields and protective light, I really can't recommend using this build in in-game content. It is very good for stuff like Gambit though. If you want that in-game build, check out my other Sentinel build in the playlist at the end of the video or up in the cards at the top right of the screen. I mentioned this also works in PvP. You would use different mods of course, but shotgunning for overshields and heals? Yes please. So you made it to the end of the video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite car is so I know you made it this far. And of course, hit that like, that sub, and the bell. I'm Mace, and I'm gone. Peace!